Hello and welcome to Sunday Service with me, Graham Hughes, here on Politics Social. I hope you're all having quite a decent weekend, all things considered. Let's have a look in the chat. We've got Dark 4x4, we've got Liebchen in there as well. We've got Witchy Goth, we've got Sarah Davis. Hi, Sarah. We've got the One Angry Pagan is in there as well, and Amy Walker. Amy Walker. We've got Jane Lockwood in there as well. Hi, everyone. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat here, all you need to do is hit that big juicy subscribe button. You will be subscribed to the channel. Hell yeah. So, the view from halfway down. So, as I said back in December when I was at Niagara Falls, in New York State, I did say that America was like a cartoon character that had run off a cliff and wasn't going to start falling until it looked down. And that's very true. You know, America, as soon as Trump was re-elected, that was it. You know, the mistake had been made. They had jumped. Now the air is rushing fast. The ground is coming. Like there is no way to climb back. There's no way to get back. Today's show is going to be about America now realizing, looking at polling, too late, that the damage is already done politically, economically, and socially. So it's been 100 days of Trump. I didn't want to call the show 100 days of Trump because I don't want to give him that, and also it's the fact that there's still like 1,300 still to go of this gobshite in charge. And you compare this to the tradition of like 100-day assessments with FDR's New Deal and Obama's economic rescue after the financial the credit crunch, the financial collapse of 2008. And then you look at what Trump has done. And he has, instead of rebuilding or fixing things that need to be fixed, he was handed decent economy on a silver platter by Biden. He went, yeah, you go, inflation's coming down, interest rates coming down, like, you know, the economy is in rude health. America had the best recovery from COVID of any economy in the world. It had the best. And I know COVID was shit for every country in the world, but America seemed to weather the storm better than most. Not least of which the UK, because austerity, Brexit, the COVID catastrophe that they, having these dickheads in charge who didn't care about the country's future or economy or anything really, just a bunch of narcissists living in number 10 and destroying the economy bit by bit. And then we had Truss. Then we had the Truss economic catastrophe. That was her mini budget. That meant the people who lend money to the government said, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. And so the government had to put up the interest rates to say, hey, as a little bit of a reward, come give us your money and we'll give you a bit more money back. And they went, ooh, okay then. And gilt yields, as they're called over here, went through the roof. And the mortgage market just exploded. Like people who were on tiny mortgage rates, just like 1 or 2%, suddenly paying 4 or 5 times that amount in repayments. In interest on their mortgage if they went on a fixed rate. They're on a variable rate mortgage and they had to renegotiate it. A lot of people who probably watching this actually have suffered because of it. So America did better than that. I mean, I'm not saying that everything was wonderful and pearly and splendiferous when old Biden walked out the White House, but they were pretty good. But now the S&P is down 15%, and the only reason it's down 15% is because of Trump. The IMF has slashed global growth forecasts because of Trump and his erratic tariff policies. And let's just look at that for a moment. And I know we've kind of done this subject to death on this channel, but it's worth just sort of recounting where we are. Trump puts an extra 10% tariff on what was already there. This is back in February on Chinese imports into America. So Chinese exports from China, imports into America. And China does nothing. And then Trump puts the tariff rate up to what, 34%, was it the first one? And China did nothing. And then he put it up to double that. And China went, okay, right, this is silly now. We're going to put some tariffs on. So they put some tariffs on. America put theirs up to 135% to Chinese goods coming into America. And China went, okay, and put theirs up to 84%. And then America, Trump's like, oh, then we'll put them even more. And China's like, all right, whatever, does nothing. Trump's saying, oh, we're going to have this great meeting. We're going to have this great deal. China does nothing. Xi Jinping's going to call me any moment now. He's going to call me and we're going to make this great deal. Xi Jinping does nothing. He just sits there. And they go, hey, you know all those rare earth metals and materials that you need to make your stuff, America? You know, all your tech stuff, but also all your like defense stuff. Yeah. You know that stuff that you need? Yeah. Well, we have 90% of the market of refined rare earth metals. So we tell you what, America, you can piss off. We're not going to sell them to you anymore. And America is now, well, kind of, I say America, but it's Trump, isn't it? Trump is now dialing back on the tariffs, claiming victory. After China's just gone, whatevs. So currently now, the economy in America is like the pause before the thunder stage. We're talking mass layoffs, inflation, and supply chain crashes are just a few weeks away. And the way that this has been looked at is that people are going, okay, well, it takes a few weeks for things to come across the Pacific from China to America, to the west coast of America. Then it takes even a few more weeks to get across to, the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, Boston. And so the actual knock-on effects of these tariffs won't be felt until next month. So it's going to start kicking in May, and it's just going to get worse and worse. And the thing is, even if Trump stops the tariffs like tomorrow, it's still going to be the tariffs on the stuff coming in. And so China, for one, has looked for other partners to trade with. So, for instance, soybeans, they've done a big deal with, I think it's Brazil. It might be Brazil or Argentina. They've done a big deal with another country for getting soybeans, which they use to feed their pigs. There's lots of pigs in China. Pork markets. But sticking on the subject of pigs, for pork imports, they've pivoted Chinese to the majority of its pork imports from America. It's now pivoted to Spain. It's getting them from Spain instead. And that's going to stay there because they don't know what Trump's going to do next. And I can't stress this enough. It's the uncertainty. It is every time that there's a problem, it is the uncertain in the economy. It's caused by uncertainty. There's enough stuff. There's enough money. There's enough commodities. There's enough Game Boy Colors. Whatever you're trying to sell, right? There's enough of it. There's enough consumers. There are. The only thing that makes these markets go bonkers is uncertainty. Uncertainty caused by the credit collapse in 2008. Uncertainty caused by austerity, by the Tories, massive uncertainty caused by Brexit. We didn't know what was happening next. So how can you plan for the future? How can you invest in a country if you're a foreign investor if you don't know if you're going to be able to build that factory? You don't know, because of the whims of the people in charge, whether you'll be able to actually start that. You got a project that's 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the line of building a factory and production and everything. You might get shut down because the president takes a dislike to your country. He looks at your flag and he's like, I don't like the shade of colour on your flag. And so he just sacks it off. And we saw this with Brexit. Look up foreign direct investment into the UK. After 2016, right, goes off a cliff. It goes off a cliff. And we're talking about like billions and billions of pounds. I say pounds. I actually mean euros. I mean dollars. I mean Japanese yen. I mean Swiss francs. I mean money coming from other countries into our country. And that investment just stopped. It went dark overnight. And the really frustrating thing about this, 2016, our foreign direct investment was the highest it had ever been. Ever. Ever. And this is investments. It's not a loan like we had to beg the IMF for in 1975. It's not the Marshall Plan. We don't have to keep paying it back until the year 2016 or whenever it was. This is investment. This is money put into our country. And what do they ask in return? Stability. That is what they want. That is what investors crave. It's what economists crave. It's what the people who bet on the stock markets or whatever, it's what they crave. Stability. Predictability to some extent. And yet Trump has just thrown that away for America. He's issued 124 executive orders, even faster than he did in his first term. And that's possibly because they were prepared for this with Project 2025. They weren't prepared necessarily for his first term because no one really expected him to win it, and not least him. The Trump administration has control over both houses of Congress, so there's no real oversight going on. There's this creation of the Department of Government Efficiency under Elon Musk, which is dismantling federal government departments with no congressional mandate and gutting them, gutting US aid and going into the actual facts and figures of the IRS in America. And there was a BBC report, I think it was yesterday, they were fact-checking Elon Musk's claims for how much money they've saved the government. So he came in saying he was going to save $2 trillion. $2 trillion. And then he halved that to $1 trillion. And then that's come down again. And he's claiming now at about 140 billion or something of savings of the US. And the BBC dug into all this, and it was all just bullshit. It was saying that he had stopped programs that had already stopped. It was saying that making mistakes, making like schoolboy errors. Like there was one where they thought it was 8 billion. They wrote it down as an 8 billion saving when actually it was 8 million. And then on top of that, you've got the fact that he's gone around saying, taking the whole of what could be spent on a particular thing by the government. So the government will say, we need this thing done by 2029. We don't know how much it's going to cost, but it can't cost more than, say, $120 million, right? That's the ceiling. So it might only cost $10, right? The actual cost to the government might be just a couple of quid. Like it might be fuck all, right? But they're taking what the ceiling is as the number that they're saving the government by scrapping that program. So whatever the ceiling was, even though that wasn't money that the government was spending. And then you've got over 100,000 layoffs of federal staff. And that is going to cost them money. Two reasons. One, you've got to pay redundancy. That's paying people money for not doing a job. Then once you realize that people need to do these jobs, you're going to have to either rehire them at a higher wage, or if they've already gone off into the wild, you might have to get someone else in. And this is what I don't understand. Big companies do this all the time. And look, no, I've always been a sole trader. You know, I've always been a freelancer. I've always done my own thing, right? And so I've kind of got like an outside view of this. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you've worked in corporate all your life, but this is the impression that I get, and this is from friends and family who work in these kind of places, is that uselessness is rewarded, because if you're useless, you get to do less work because people won't put you onto projects, and they might even promote you just to get you out of that particular office because you're a nightmare. And if you do loads and loads of work, like if you're really good and, you know, take things on, you end up getting the work that the shit people didn't do, and you get that loaded on you with no extra money. And one of the big mistakes that a lot of these companies make is when that person who's overloaded with loads of work says, "Can I have a bit more money, please?" They say no. And so that person who is clearly capable and can literally go anywhere, we don't have jobs for life anymore, goes, "All right then, fuck off," and goes and gets another job somewhere else where they get paid a bit more. So instead of paying them like 10 grand a year more, like nothing for these massive companies, like 10 grand a year more, instead of doing that, they have to get somebody else in for the same amount of money they were paying the first person, who might not be as good as the first person, and you've got to train them, and you've got to pay someone to train them as well. And that, I guarantee, will cost the firm more than 10 grand. So why don't they just give the person the pay rise? It's the principle. It's the principle. A lot of companies run on that, on these stupid ideas. Now, government shouldn't be run like companies. It kind of pisses me off. People go, "Oh yeah, we should run this country like a company." I'm like, no. Because the objective of a company is to make a profit and to make the profit go bigger every year for some reason. I don't really understand this. I don't understand when you've got a company and it's making £100 million a year. Why does it need to grow? Why does it need to grow? Because we see this time and time again where we have a company and it'll get to a certain size and it's doing great, but then it decides, no, we need to expand, we need to grow, and then it overreaches and it goes bankrupt. It happens so many times because it diversifies into things it shouldn't diversify into. Marconi is a really good example of this, which was a British telecommunications company that used to own all the cables, all the cables that you see on the, going from lamppost to lamppost. They used to own all that stuff. That was theirs. They sold it all off in the 90s to invest in like the dot-com bubble or something because they needed to grow. And they were like, well, we're not going to get more cables, so we need to grow. And if they'd just been happy, just going, no, we're earning X amount a year. We have X many employees, they're happy with the money they're getting. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's like, no, we need to be growing every quarter. And I think that's where madness lies. And that's why I don't want that sort of corporate mentality of the likes of Elon Musk to bleed into government. I don't want to see that because it doesn't work in government. When you're spending money on keeping people alive, your motive on that should be keeping people alive. It shouldn't be making a profit. Same with letting people travel around your country. It should be on making that experience as cheap and as efficient as possible. It shouldn't be about making money. Water. Look at how much money has been not invested in water over the last few months. Over the last 35 years. Last few months. I wish it was last few months. Look how much money has not been invested in upgrading facilities. No new reservoirs built at all. 35 of them shut down. And the infrastructure has not been maintained at all. We lose gigaliters of fresh water every day through leaks in the pipes because the pipes haven't been replaced. And yet, the shareholders of these companies that have taken out these massive fucking loans and own like billions of dollars to, I don't know, Canada's pension funds or something. The money's there for the shareholders. The money's there to, get some more money off these lenders because they need to make more money. Everyone needs, well, not everyone, the CEOs need to make more money. And I don't want that mentality in government. And that's what Trump and Elon Musk bring to the American government. That winner takes it all, dog eat dog, zero-sum game bullshit on a social enterprise. And make no mistake, a government is a social enterprise. That's what it is. We have a thing called a social contract, and it is a deal that we make with our government. And the deal is this. It's very simple. We give up some of our rights. The right to murder people, the right to go around robbing stuff, right? We give up those rights in return for our government looking after us. That's it. Protecting us from foreign invading armies, protecting us against crime, protecting us against disease, protecting us against ignorance. This is what the government should be there doing and giving people the best chance to lead their best life at whatever level that will be. And yeah, people enjoy different stuff. It's fine. As long as no one's getting hurt, go do it. Go with God. It's fine. Caravan Lad, just want to say thank you for the £3 super chat, my friend. That's really kind of you. Yup, Graham, it's falling upward is a problem, and then they get to control things as a manager, sees it happening, Alistair, yeah, I've honestly, I've spoken to loads of people who have talked about this thing that happens in companies all the time, and it's one of the main reasons why companies fail, because that rot just rises, shit floats, and that rot rises to the top, and then you'll get someone taking over a 150-year-old family company that's always, shown it's always been in the black, but it hasn't necessarily grown enough. And this obsession with growth is really fucking weird, because the only things that should be obsessed with growth are, I don't know, fungi, just giant redwood trees. And I just don't understand this thing that, like, we've got to grow, we've got to grow, we've got to grow. And in doing that, you risk losing your entire business. So, for instance, we'll talk about the water companies. They are at high risk of being taken back over by the government in the next few years. All of them, because they're all doing such an incredibly shit job. Now, if they hadn't done that, if they had invested a bit, if they'd looked after people, if they kept the costs down, if they haven't borrowed so much, if they haven't been so greedy, there's a good chance that the gravy train would have kept going forever. The only reason why the water companies, the privatized water companies, are now all coming up for review, and the obviously the train companies, you could say this, is because of the desire for profit. It's because they've tried to do everything in their power to make a bigger profit. How do you make a bigger profit? Well, you charge people more and you sack people, and you don't look after anything. Just leave maintenance. It's for somebody else's problem. Someone in 10 years' time, I'll be in a different job. I'll be in a different exec in a different thing. And I do find it galling that we have a system in this country where we have fucking league tables for schools. We have school league tables, for Christ's sake. But we don't do it for, I don't know, water companies. Oh no, Graham, it's a private enterprise. You can't, whatever. Anyway, thank you very much to Alistair and the Caravan Lad for those super chats. I will set a goal. What are we at? 24 minutes in. So if we get 10 super chats in any colour, in the next 30 minutes, I will babble on for 15. There you go. It should be Babylon for 5, but I think you deserve a bit more than that. So anyway, back to the first 100 days of Trump. Trump is celebrating his 100 days with a MAGA rally in Michigan. Compare that with the tradition of the other 100 days assessments, like FDR's New Deal, and like I said, with Obama's economic rescue. I mean, what's there to celebrate? What is there to celebrate? But his MAGA faithful love him. Look at the polls. Although anyone who voted Democrat is like, oh my God, this guy is terrible across all these different things, the polling from the people who voted for Trump, they still think that tariffs are a good idea. Like, they honestly still, the gulf between these polls is like, you ask a Democrat if they think tariffs are a good idea, and it's like maybe like 9% or something. It's like, fuck all of people going, yeah, that sounds a good idea. With the Republicans, like 87% or something mad. It might not be that high, but it's really like a gulf of understanding of what a tariff is. Because most of these people don't understand what a tariff is. In the same way that stupid conservative MP the other day just hadn't thought of the fact that a trans man looks like a man. So how would that stop when this was pointed out to him by Dawn Butler? How would you know if someone came into your toilet as a man with a beard, looking like me? How would you know? How would you know if they were a trans man or not? They can say they are. Or they can say they're part of the cleaning staff. I mean, what's harder, dressing up as a woman, or getting a gender recognition certificate to go into the girls' bogs, or just putting on an overall and getting a mop and bucket? Just anyway. So Musk. It just go back to Musk for a moment. He's acting as Trump's unelected enforcer, which is absolutely true. Alistair, thank you very much for the £1 super chat, mate. It's very kind of you. So let's talk about the weaponization of justice even. So the FBI have arrested a Wisconsin judge called Hannah Duggan, for protecting immigration rights. So this shows the weaponization of federal power. This also shows public intimidation of judges, and also there's been calls for impeachment of judges who don't rule Trump's way. And then Alistair, thank you. This one works. Now, once this happens, this is going down a very, very slippery slope. This is the man who has pardoned 1,500 violent terrorist insurrectionists who went into the American Parliament building, the Capitol building. They went in there with the intention of murdering elected officials, including the then Vice President Mike Pence. They broke in. It led to the deaths of 9 people. It cost over $3 million worth. They did $3 million worth of damage. They smeared their own feces on the walls. These fucking animals. They tasered police officers, kicked them in the head. Over 150 police officers were injured in that Capitol riot, instigated by Trump, carried out by his fanatics. And he pardoned them all. 1,500 people pardoned by Trump. And, he has openly rewarded political violence. Sends a message: if you fight for me, you'll be all right. You're above the law. Don't worry about it. I'll get you out. I'll get you off. And he's openly floating ideas for staying in power beyond 2028, which also I pointed out that he would do. His base are being conditioned to believe that is normal. And some of them are saying, like, oh, Obama had 3 terms. And you're like, what can you do in face of such ignorance? What can you do? You can't force these people to go back to school. They didn't pay attention the first time round. I don't think they're going to pay attention the second time round either. What do you do? And a constitutional amendment to get rid of the, I don't know which amendment it was, 16th or something. The amendment that made it so that you can only do 2 terms, which was brought in by the fucking Republicans, because they were so incensed that FDR had won 4 elections on the trot. They were like, oh, I can't have that happening again. Put a 2-term limit in. And the Democrats are like, all right then. I think the Democrats are quite thankful that they went along with that now. But he's talking about taking a 3rd term, and although changing the constitution is vanishingly unlikely because you need 2/3 majority in both houses in Congress, that's the House of Representatives and the Senate. You also need to get, I think it's 3/4 of the states to ratify it. So yeah, even if it got through Parliament, even if it got through Congress in America, it wouldn't get past the states, not the blue states anyway. But there are loopholes which are being plotted, like Vance runs and Trump is the VP, and then Vance steps down and Trump is president again. Or a completely different ticket happens and they win and Trump is made to be Speaker of the House, and then they both stand down, the Vice President and the President. Speaker of the House becomes President. Before I go on to foreign isolation, Richard Grumpygit, thank you. Towards the buying another badger fund. Oh, thank you, Richard Grumpygit. Why do we have to buy another badger? We've got a lovely badger over here, dressed for some reason in what looks like a Chinese garb. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it was the year of the badger. Last multiple term US president was FDR. It was. The thing I found interesting is not an insignificant number who voted for Trump and AOC on the same ballot, says Paula. Yeah, because a lot of people don't care about politics and they go in and they want change. They vote for the name that they've heard of. They vote for the name that sounds familiar to them. It's what they do. We need to understand this if we're going to fight back. The fact that 1 million people who'd never voted before voted during the Brexit referendum is quite remarkable, because they were enticed out by the idea that they could actually change something. They put a mark on a bit of paper and changed something. They never changed anything before in their lives. They'd been living in a safe seat. They'd always been represented by the same party. Nothing had ever changed. So let's talk about the foreign policy side of things. American isolation and aggression, threats to NATO, open admiration for Putin, which has just reached fever pitch this week. Threats against Canada, making it, saying he's going to make it the 51st state, saying Greenland, we're going to take it, and talking about retaking the Panama Canal, and also alienating historic allies and thereby destabilizing global security. When it comes to the Panama Canal, it pisses me off. This, like, America's like, oh yeah, we pay for that. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. A lot of it was actually built by the French. It was just that the route they took they wanted to have a sea level canal that went from the Caribbean, the Atlantic, the Caribbean, to the Pacific. They wanted to see, and that went through mountains. It went through mountains, my friends, mountains. And it was the same guys who did the Suez Canal quite successfully, which is a sea level to sea level canal, connects the Med with the Red, but it's going through flat lands, and there's a bloody big lake in the middle, Bitter Lake, and yeah, it's great because you just basically cut a big trench in the sand. Ta-da! Canal. Awesome. But in Panama, it needs to go across mountains, and so in Panama they built the French who were trying to do it. They killed tens of thousands of people who died in mudslides, who died in just accidents where they were trying to dig out, because they'll dig out during the day, and then they'll stop because it got dark, and then the mudslides will just come and fill it up what they'd just done that day. And this happened again and again over years. The French eventually abandoned the project. I say the French were just in charge. The people who actually built the canal were Panamanians, were people brought over from other countries in the West Indies, most notably Jamaica, brought over as labourers to work there. And lots of people died of malaria as well. Huge number of people died of malaria, because this is before we understood the link between malaria and mosquitoes. In fact, the name malaria means bad air. They thought it was just bad air. I think there was a word like miasma, which they used in London when they had a cholera epidemic. They thought it was miasma that was causing the illness, which is basically bad air. It's like bad smelling air. So they made the connection between something that's rotting, something that's not good, it smells unpleasant. Okay, we shouldn't drink that, we shouldn't eat that. And that's the connection they made, but they hadn't made the idea that something like something could be an a waterborne virus. They're kind of getting into the realms of airborne viruses, kind of, but they still hadn't got their head around the idea that there could be waterborne viruses as well, or parasites, or whatever the hell it is. And so the Americans came along, and this was Roosevelt who pushed this, not Franklin Roosevelt, but Theodore Roosevelt, who the teddy bear is named after. Now, Theodore Roosevelt was a little bit of an adventurer. He famously once went up the Amazon River, and he was the sole survivor of that expedition. And I think he survived an assassination attempt. I think he got shot, and he kept talking. I don't know. The stories of Theodore Roosevelt are a myriad. Anyway, he decided that America should go for this. We should finish this canal off. Unfortunately for him, the Colombian government, because at the time Panama was part of Colombia, the Colombian government in Bogota said, "No, piss off. We're not going to do that again. 27,000 people died trying to build it last time. And forget it. It's not going to happen." And so America, as it often did, and often still probably does, they sent their brightest and best telephone sanitizers into Panama and started saying, "Hey, have you thought about breaking off from the rest of Colombia? Because you got that Darien Gap, and it's hard to get across that. So how about you break off from Colombia and we build that canal? Because they're stopping you from building the canal, and if you build that canal, we can share the money, and we'll both be incredibly, incredibly rich." And the Panamanians went, okay, yeah, that sounds good. So America funded the independence war between Panama and Colombia. Wasn't much of a war, but people died. And but Panama broke away and became its own independent state, and work on the canal started almost immediately, finished in around 1914, and it opened for business. And America took all the money. Now, it's not just like America let Panama do their own thing on the canal and then just turned up at the end of the day with a big cigar and said, "Hey, where's my cut?" No. America ran the canal. So the zone for like a mile either side of the canal was called the American Canal Zone, and it was technically part of America. And so there was a guy, John McCain, who ran for president about 20 years ago now. My God, time flies. And McCain actually was not born in the United States of America. Heaven forfend, Graham, because this is the big thing about Obama not being born in America when he absolutely was. How can he run for president if he's not born in America? Well, dear reader, or watcher, whatever, he was born in the Panamanian Canal Zone. He was born near enough the canal, area that was just run by America. So Panama had its country dissected in two. After breaking off from Colombia, it had its country dissected in two. In order to get from one side of Panama to the other side of Panama, you had to stop at a checkpoint, you had to get your papers checked and all this kind of shit. It was a bit of a fucking nightmare, to say the least. And the Americans took every fucking penny until 1999, when the canal finally went back into Panamanian hands. They got fuck all. Panama was a proper third world country, a literal banana republic, as they were called back then. United Fruit Company causing loads of trouble. The Americans running the canal. It was an incredibly, incredibly impoverished place. And then they got the canal back. And suddenly, oh my God, they had more money than they knew what to do with. They were like, where's all this money come from? This is amazing. Is this how much the Americans were making out of this canal that went through our country? And yet they gave preferential rates to Americans. They still had a good cordial relationship with America. They used the American dollar in Panama. And then we get to Trump, and he's turning up and saying, "Oh, it's not fair. It's not fair. They're charging us more. They're charging us more." And the reality is, yeah, all countries are getting charged more for the pilotage through the Panama Canal. And I'll tell you why. Climate change. Since the last few years, there's been a terrible drought in Panama. And it means the artificial lake, Lake Gatan, which is up in the mountains, in the middle of the canal. So the canal comes along from the Caribbean, comes down from the Caribbean, goes into Lake Gatan, a few locks up, Lake Gatan, a few locks down, and then you're out into the Pacific Ocean. Lake Gatan is at dangerously low levels, and every time they open those locks, they lose loads and loads of water, fresh water, because there's fresh water in the canal. It's not a saltwater canal, it's a freshwater canal. Whereas Suez is a saltwater canal. It's got water just coming in, whereas the Panama Canal is different. It relies on water coming from the sky in order to fill it, and then it filters out into either way into either the Caribbean or into the Pacific. And that's why they're charging more for ships to go through, because fewer ships can go through because they can't afford to waste that much water. And on top of that, on the 100th anniversary of the opening of the original Panama Canal, the Panamanian government opened the Miraflores locks, the new Miraflores locks, which are way bigger and allow much bigger ships. So for years and years and years, up until 2014, the biggest ship that you could get that could go down the Panama Canal was called a Panamax ship. So a lot of ships were built to be a Panamax size. If they were bigger than that, they were called post-Panamax, and they would never be able to go through the Panama Canal. But any ship that needs to go through the Panama Canal, and it was the exact size of the locks at Miraflores, which is just by Panama City. When they built these new locks, it meant that a much bigger ship could get through those locks. And also, those locks recycle water as well, a lot more effectively than the old ones from 100 years earlier. So they invested a lot of money in this. In fact, there was a nationwide referendum for the Panamanian people to ask them if they wanted to do this. That this is how big an infrastructure project this was. And the Panamanian people gave their assent to this being done. And as a result, arguably, more ships can get through, bigger ships can get through, and they're saving a little bit of water that they wouldn't have saved if they'd kept using, let's call them, the American locks. So they've actually made the whole thing more efficient. They made it better run, and they deserve the money that they get from people traversing through their country. They're the ones who have to run all the bureaucracy. They have to run all the, checking what's coming through, doing all the, paying officials, operating the locks. You need the electricity. You need all that stuff that needs to be done. That's what Panama's doing. And Trump's sitting there going, oh, we'll have that. Like, I just can't even start to just imagine, like, the madness. It's like us saying, well, you know what? Statue of Liberty. You're not doing much with that, are you? We'll have that. We'll just have it. What, you got no claim over it whatsoever? Or the French, actually. The French, that's a better example. The French demanding the Statue of Liberty back. We built it. We built it, mate. Gustave Eiffel, who the Eiffel Tower is named after, designed the steelwork inside the Statue of Liberty, which was originally conceived as being a woman holding a torch on the entrance, the Mediterranean entrance to, bring it all back, the Suez Canal. Fun fact. But then they decided to give it to America instead. All right, Charles Stanhope, thank you very much for the £10 super chat, my friend. Hi, Graham. 2 US woke lefties joke, warned about the dangers of populism. Rush Limbaugh and Pat Buchanan in the 90s and George W. Bush recently. Yeah, populism. It's snake oil salesmanship. And the thing is, there is very much a reason why people are not educated against this kind of shit. Okay, why aren't they? Why aren't they told like that about cons? Why aren't they? Why isn't Watchdog and Witch and these publications and TV shows? Why aren't they going after politicians and saying he said this and then he didn't do this? Populism. It's very easy when you're in opposition to just blurt out anything that comes into your head because you'll never have to do it. You'll never have to actually do the practical thing of getting that shit done. It's sad, but it is true. And it's insanely frustrating when you see people fall for scams. And you think, why isn't there more awareness of these scams? And I'll tell you why there's not more awareness of the scams. Because the scammers are in charge. The scammers don't want people to know to be able to spot a scam anywhere it happens. Because they make money out of it. Every time some daft twat posts something on bloody Facebook and it's been like reposted 1 million times and it's just, you only need to look at it for like 1 second like that. That's bullshit. When you can hear like one note of a song and you can get it. It's a bit like that with bullshit on the internet. If you're tuned to it, you just look at it and go, that's bollocks, that is. Nah, that's bollocks. Your northern bullshit detector starts pinging and you're like, bollocks. And yet, there are millions of people out there who are just like, no, I just believe everything on the face of it. I just believe everything on face value. Why not? That seems like a sensible thing to do. Why would anyone lie? And I'm like, just takes 5 seconds. And there's 2 layers to this. One is the fact that they look at something and they don't think there's anything amiss with it. They're sharing a photograph of an African kid with 17 fingers on one hand. They don't see there's anything wrong with it. But maybe some of them do. Maybe some of them are like, I don't know about this. Do they research? Do they go online and look it up and do a Google image match to find out where the picture came from and if it's actually what's being... No, they're too lazy. So you've got 2 layers here, stupidity and laziness. And then off goes the meme. Now who benefits from that? Fucking Musk, Zuckerberg, all those twats who own the social media platforms. They need people using their social media platforms. And they know that outrage sells more than good times. As any newspaper proprietor since time immemorial will tell you. If it bleeds, it leads. You see something on Facebook that is like, had a nice time with the family this weekend. We went to the park. Picture of the family at the park. You'll give it a like. Like that. Like to see people having a nice time. You scroll down. Trans women aren't women. Here we go. Pick up you. Do you know what I mean? Like, then you're going to invest, 20 minutes of your life writing to them, then writing back some bullshit, and you writing to them and telling them what a dickhead they are and how much you enjoyed their mum last night, and then you decide that you're never going to talk to each other again. That's another beautiful friendship ruined. But you just spent 20 minutes on Facebook that you would normally not have spent on Facebook or on Twitter or Threads or Blue Sky or whatever the fuck you're on. There's money to be made. There's money to be made out of outrage. That's why the journalists, they love Trump. They absolutely, all the newspaper proprietors, they love Trump because he sells fucking papers. He turns politics into a game, into some, big laugh for everyone, and he sells papers. So anyway, back on to Trump's 100 days. God, the sun's really coming through the window now, and I'm getting quite, I don't know. I'm kind of tempted to just adjust the exposure setting, but I'll leave it for a moment because there's a good chance that the sun will go back behind the cloud, and then I'll turn it back. So inflation in America is ticking upwards. Global tariffs have panicked markets. They've weakened the US dollar. They triggered a looming worldwide recession, never mind just for America. And these supposed negotiating tactics are creating a trade nightmare. Shortages of products and economic paralysis are incoming, and they're in the works. This thing, it moves slowly because you've got to move the product from China over to America, and then you've got to have some arguments over the tariffs and who pays it. There's going to be boats that are sitting outside the port at San Diego or San Francisco. So they're just sitting outside on the water because they're just going to wait until something happens with the tariffs, and then they can bring their goods in. Meanwhile, all those goods, they're perishable, they're rotting, but if they're, just plastic toys and things, you're going to have to pay for the fact that the captain and the officers and all the crew on that ship have had to stay an extra month at sea, waiting to come in with their contraband, or as we like to call it, cargo. And political violence is likely to rise as Trump clamps down harder. And look, there's some people who say, all you chicken littles, you're saying that the world's going to collapse. And I don't think the world's going to collapse. I don't. But I think the big difference between people who are saying it's going to be fine, or we don't have a constitutional problem, we have a Republican problem because they won't fight back against him. I just say this. I think it's a constitutional problem, right? The constitutional crisis is that the American Constitution is fucking garbage. That's the big problem. So I don't see any way out of this. And I'm not being a disastrous by saying this, because I do genuinely believe that whatever happens once this nonsense is over will be better than what came before. But it might take a long time to get there. It might take 20, 30, 40 years to get there. But it'd be better than what Americans had in 2024. I guess. I hope. That's my hope anyway. Because Trump is absolutely exposing the weaknesses of the US Constitution like no president has ever done before. He is showing every single loophole, every little mad thing that the executive can get away with, every single reason why it's a really bad idea to make one squishy, tiny-handed, orange-faced fuckwit the head of state, the head of government, the head of the FBI, the head of the CIA, the effective head of the Coast Guard, the head of the military. That's right, the Air Force, their equivalent to the SAS, Navy SEALs, woohoo, the Army, the Navy, all of them. They're all owned by Trump. He's in charge. He's the CEO of all those things. The Pentagon, Trump. Fucking NASA, Trump. Department of Education, Trump. Let's put him in charge of all these things. What's he going to do? No, shit idea, America. So, once you've got rid of Trump in a few years' time, by natural causes or otherwise, once he's out of here, you need to have a rethink. Stop swearing allegiance to your stupid constitution. It's time to rewrite that motherfucker. It's the 21st century. It was written in the 1700s, and you're still worshipping a document from 300 bloody years ago. When people thought, or 250 years ago, when people thought that slavery was okay, yeah, and everyone should have a gun, yeah, because it was a musket and it took like 5 minutes to reload the bastard. Yeah, just madness. Anyway, Charles Stanhope, thank you very much. How much longer until he starts abusing his power further and adding political enemies to the no-fly list? Not long, mate. Not long, my friend. He's already taken security details away from his political rivals. He said, "Oh no, they're not going to protect you." And also, he's taken security clearance away from Biden. And Trump had his clearance taken away from him because of the insurrection, because of January the 6th. Anyway, we've got 2 minutes to drop in a few more super chats, and I will babble on for 15 more minutes. And maybe I shouldn't have made that so cryptic. I don't know. Richie Goth is on your channel. What? Richie Goth? What? Richie Goth? Not politics here. Just watch the winners of the London Marathon. Wow, I have a lot of work to do. Says Richie Goth. It's like 26,000 people went for the London Marathon this year, didn't they? This is incredible. I wish the US had a parliamentary system, said Liz Allen. Yeah. Any person who saves this country from Trump violates no law, says Happy Enough. I wouldn't disagree with that. Neutral Container says, I recently learned that POTUS was initially a very weak figure, but the Constitution gave the office more and more power, but it wasn't a problem until Trump came. Black Swan, 200 years in the making. Yeah, the power, that you consolidate power on one person, you better hope that person doesn't turn out to be a gangster narcissist who doesn't give a fuck about life, liberty, or fruit the fucking loom. Literally. Yeah, I'm sure they get their stuff made in China. So let's have a quick look at the papers. We've got 7 minutes left, so I will have a quick look at the papers. Well, today's con's not the same as it was 200 plus years ago. Yeah, that's true. And Joanna's got to go. Okay, see you later, Joanna. Take care. We'll have a look at the papers in Joanna's absence. There we go. We've got the Sunday service here. We've got Sunday Times even. We've got Rosie Huntington Whiteley. She didn't go to the local comp, did she? Did she go to the local comp? Is this going to be the 1,256th name on my list? I don't know. Let's have a look. Rosie, I don't even know who she is. Rosie Huntington Whiteley. She's a 38-year-old model and actress. She's best known for her work on lingerie retailer Victoria's Secret. She was born in Plymouth, and she was born to a chartered surveyor. Well, there you go. And someone was a wing commander, and she was educated at Tavistock College. No, it's a state school. Ooh, I'll take it back. There you go. History. Tavistock Grammar is previously a community school administered by Devon County Council. It changed to academy status in 2018. So there you go. State funded school. Okay. All right, I'll let her off. I'll let you off, Rosie. Even you got a posh name. See, never judge a book by its cover, as they say. Let's move down a little bit. Hopes for peace after Vatican summit. What do you think? I'm just going to turn the volume down on my camera a little bit. There we go. That's better. Oh no, it's too dark. That's all right. Hopes for peace after Vatican summit. Trump and Zelensky hold talks as Pope is laid to rest. It's a really startling picture of the two of them just sitting there, like having a conversation in this big, old ornate room in St. Peter's Basilica. It's just bizarre. World's pilgrims and power elite congregated at St. Peter's Square. Jet fighters were on standby. SAS fears over security breach, and Guthrie killed by toll of abuse. The family of Virginia Guthrie, who took her own life, said the toll of abuse by wealthy men was so great it became unbearable for her to handle its weight. Just really, really sad story. Really disturbing. This woman who was abused as a child by royalty, by our royal family, not just by Prince Andrew, who actually had sex with her when she was 17 and he was what, in his 30s, in his 40s? No, not just that, but the fact that the whole royal, media mill, whatever it is, set out to besmirch her name and say that no, she's just making it up, she's talking bollocks. And then she came out with the photograph of her quite clearly with Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently in jail for people trafficking, for horrific abuses of women, and Prince Andrew and Virginia. She was there, and that was the point. Now, someone said, "Oh, it's a bit dodgy, isn't it? Do you reckon they did this to shut her up?" And I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't think that we can take the men in this woman's life off the hook for driving her to take her own life. This story has personal connotations for me, and I get really, really upset by the fact that men can do this. They can drive someone to suicide, and you know what? It's legal. It's legal to do that in this country. Because, as my friend who's a judge who explained this to me when I was absolutely distraught when something similar happened to a friend of mine last year, she said, well, look, the problem is you can't tell. There's no way the law knowing what's in someone's mind when they take their own life, even if they write a note saying, I'm doing it because of this. There's no way of proving that under the stupid way we set the law up. And these men get away with it. So no, I don't think she was assassinated by a crack team of, Navy SEAL 6 or whatever they're fucking called. No, I don't, sent by Prince Andrew to take her out. I think that the toll of being abused by men all her life just was too much. It was just too much for her. And we shouldn't let those motherfuckers off the hook. In the same way, I don't like it when people say, oh, well, 9/11 was an inside job. No, that takes the Saudi Arabians who organised it and completely got paid for it and completely got away with it off the hook. Oh, no, it wasn't really the Saudis, except, that guy who was Saudi who, came from a very, very prominent, wealthy family in Saudi Arabia who set it all up and said 15 and the 19 hijackers were from Saudi. Fair enough. But, you're splitting hairs, really. Let's invade Iraq. Do you see the connection? When you start saying things like, well, it probably wasn't the Saudis, when it totally was, to, well, let's invade Iraq, which makes no sense whatsoever because let's follow America into two unpopular and unwinnable wars and then have America turn around and tell us that we're cowards. Fuck them. Justice is the one thing you should always find. Trump, I do not come to praise the Pope. I came to get notice at his burial. Yes, you're very right there, Jeannie, because Trump wore a blue suit. Everyone else wore a black suit because it was a fucking funeral. And he was the only one there in a blue suit. Absolute gobshite. Absolute gobshite. This is just the madness of the Daily Mail here. So we've got a thing about Pope Francis, and then underneath this non-story, Keir Starmer's ex-girlfriend is pro-trans judge. Okay. I can't even. I'm not even going to talk about it. Just fuck off, the Daily Mail. Piece of shit. And here we have this amazing photograph of absolute hero of our time, Vladimir Zelensky, the Winston Churchill of Ukraine. I would say the Winston Churchill of Europe at the moment. 20th century Winston Churchill. Someone's trying to find their way into second gear. Trump there on the other side, the most rancid, disgusting, pus-filled bubo that has ever fucking had the misfortune to fucking inflict upon themselves upon the human race. Well, I suppose it's our misfortune more than anything else. This is where I realised that the sun's gone behind the cloud. I have to just turn my brightness up a little bit. Yeah, just Trump turns against Putin. Does he though? Does he? Does he? President rages over Russian attacks after historic meeting with Zelensky. Funeral for Pope, and there's an interesting angle here at the bottom, at the very bottom of the page. You notice it says Virginia Guthrie death. Tragedy puts an end to Andrew's hopes for redemption. Yeah. Unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. The Daily Star on Sunday. AI turning us into plonkers. All right, mate. The Pope's last act. Wow. That's a powerful picture, isn't it? And you get to not see Trump, which is always nice. Bringing these two people together. The Winston Churchill of Europe and the fucking utter gobshite orange Hitler of America. Funny that. Farewell Francis, buried in a simple wooden coffin there. 400,000 mourners gather for Pope's funeral. Nice of IKEA to step in there to provide the coffin. And then we've got Free Inside, V-Day 80th anniversary pullout. And instead of having like a picture maybe of people celebrating the end of the war, they've got a picture of people running away in fear of their lives from a big explosion. Because, yeah, that was fun as well, I guess. Hope amid the tears. This is Trump and Zelensky in peace talks before ceremony for Pontiff. Legacy of hope. Sunday people, world leaders unite for Pope and peace talks for Ukraine. Oh, did anyone notice Macron came in and he shook hands with Vladimir Zelensky? He didn't shake hands with Trump. True story. Terracotta totalitarian, says Veg Pie. I like that. Don't sit so close to me, you smell of poo and wee. Zelensky managed to dig out some black togs. Yeah, exactly. The hero and the zero, new title, Graham. Well, yeah, absolutely. Trump wore a black suit at Jimmy Carter's funeral. He does own one. For fuck's sake. Yeah, well, I mean, he's one of the richest people in the world, so he can afford it. Anyway, so let's have a look at America. You know, as the quote goes, before I leapt, I should have seen the view from halfway down. America's in free fall, politically, economically, socially. Trump has stacked the judiciary. The economy is crashing. Political enemies are being arrested. America's going to hit the ground. It's probably going to happen in the next few weeks. We're watching it in real time. And it makes me sad. It makes me angry. And what could we have done differently before the leap? I don't know. I can tell you a lot of things that the American Democrat Party could have done differently. Joe Biden, for one, not leaving it till the very last minute to step down. Actually actively pursuing Trump through the courts. Not just, oh no, I'll let the judiciary deal with that. No, actively pushing the DOJ and going, yeah. And when people gave him shit about it, saying, no, this guy broke the law and he has to pay for it. And really set out how he broke the law. He instigated a riot in the American Congress building, the Capitol. He instigated a riot into one of America's most treasured and historic edifices. And it resulted in the deaths of 9 people. Several police officers were killed. And over 150 police officers were injured. Trump has not had to pay for that at all. He's not had to pay for anything he's done in his life. He is the ultimate example of failing upwards. A man who bankrupted casinos. That's how shit he is at running anything. How do you bankrupt a casino? A casino is a machine that just creates money. That's all it does. Because the house always wins. I can't emphasize this enough, right? People go into a casino with money and they don't buy anything. They don't buy anything. They come away with, at best, 10% of what they put in. And the casino keeps the other 90% on average. They just keep that. Thanks for that. And give nothing but a momentary buzz, a little dose of dopamine for the people playing on those games. Maybe they get electricity. Maybe they get some free drinks. if the casino's worried that they might walk out. But here's the thing, what you pay for your booze, like in the off license, and you go, oh, I got a really good bargain. I got a can of beer for like 51p. Well done. But when you're a bar, when you're a casino, you can get booze in absolute bulk. You're talking about a product that costs you pennies, and you give that to people, and they're like, oh my God, we got free drinks. Quick, more gambling, more gambling. The house always wins. And Trump managed to fuck that up. Trump has now taken the biggest economy in the world, the biggest, most successful, and most robust economy in the world. He's bankrupted it. I mean, it's not bankrupt yet, but this is the view from halfway down. It's just crazy. It is absolutely crazy. And yeah, to the people who say, oh no, it won't be that bad, I think they suffer a little bit from American exceptionalism. Can't happen here. That's something that happens in Bongo land, in banana republics. And I'm like, no, it can happen anywhere. It can happen anywhere, and it does happen anywhere. Velocity 11, thank you so much, Velocity 11, for the £5 super chat. I just found you yesterday via one of your pro-trans videos. Love what I saw. You got yourself a new viewer. Yay! And I got myself a new super chatter. Thank you so much. Right, I'm going to get off now. So thanks very, very, very much for the super chats. Thanks to everyone who contributed to the conversation this morning. I'm sorry we had to change the time. I tried to get me and my partner tried to get a ticket for Glastonbury on the resale. And we had four computers. So that's my computer here that I'm running this on, my old laptop, my new laptop, Kat's laptop, and then we had like 4 phones, and then we had different browsers on each thing. So it was Firefox, Chrome, Edge, etc. Chrome incognito mode, because that gives you and we were all in there from 8 o'clock. I actually set my clock this morning for 6. And I was checking to see when the queue started, or when the page changed to say, right, you're now in the queue to get allocated a ticket, a position. But it's not first come, first serve anymore, or just fastest finger first. It is a random lottery, and they just pick certain people and say, right, you've got through. Congratulations, caller, you're through. So don't think I'm going to Glastonbury this year, but to be fair, Charlie XCX is playing Private School Mafia, of course. But I mean, like, I don't mean any disrespect to her. I just don't know any of her songs. If it had been Olivia Rodrigo or Taylor Swift or I don't know, Chappell Roan, I'd probably know a few songs. But Charlie XCX, I'm not sure I know any of her songs. And then on the Saturday, it's Neil Young. And whereas I know Neil Young, Crazy Horse, Catherine doesn't. So it would be like... Yeah, but our friends in Ash are playing, so I would like to go and support them. But getting into Glastonbury ain't what it used to be. But, dear watcher, dear friends, dearly beloved, do not weep. Do not weep for me, for this would have been my 16th Glastonbury. And I've probably had more than my fair share. This is how I feel about life in general. I'm not that arsed if I lose out on stuff in general, because I think... I've done some fucking amazing shit, I thought it's only fair that someone else has a go. I'm just nice like that. But yeah, another year goes by without any Glastonbury magic. I'm just going to sit at home, angrily shaking my fist at the internet, saying, it ain't as good as it used to be. Whether I'm talking about the Viz or I'm talking about Glastonbury, who knows? One of the two. It ain't what it used to be. So, quick, before I go, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. That really helps us out. And also, if you give us a like, that massively helps us out, because it means that people like Velocity can find us or find this channel, because we'll be recommended on other people's channels. So we'll be recommended on Max's channel or Phil's channel or Super Tansky's channel. So please do that. Please give us a like before we go. And if you would consider joining the channel, that's a fantastic thing to do. Happy enough, Veg Pie, Liz Allen in the chat. If you have a look at Saz down here, has a little rose after their name. If you want a rose after your name, what you have to do is subscribe to the channel. It goes in tiers, and the bottom tier is only £2 a month. So, if you just want to give a little bit to help, that would be really, really appreciated. I think that's the lowest I could set it for people to actually be a member of the channel. It also gives your name at the end of the show, and also will give you access to the Discord server, which I keep threatening to use and then not getting around to using. So I really should get onto the Discord server more, but I'm sure that our friends One Angry Pagan and that are looking after the place in my absence. I hope you are anyway, One Angry Pagan. So in the meantime, I'll just say thank you so much for watching. I might be back later with another show in the afternoon or evening, but I'll let you know about that. I'll put a notice on my my channel if we're going to do that. So look out for that. And until then, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Oh, wow. Whoa. Hang on. Before I go, I was just about to say goodbye, but Alistair has just gifted 5 Politics Social memberships. This is fantastic. So Glass Robot, you are now a member of the channel. Sue Fairy Dust B is now a member. Vexing Goblin, HMQ, and Mellow Maggot are all now members of the channel for a month. So thank you very much to Alistair. That is exceptionally kind of you. I'll give you a little thank you. You're the best. Animation, because you know you are. And I'm going to get going. Oh, no, hang on. Liz Allen has just sent one Politics Social gift membership to Jody Bobble. Jody Bobble has become a new member. Welcome. Oh, this is really exciting. This is really fun. Thank you so much. That is awesome. Welcome. You are awesome. So yeah, farewell, folks, says Genie Bottle. Thanks very much to Liz. Thanks very much to Alistair. Thanks to everyone who's dropped the super chat in today. I'll be back definitely tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, bright and early for Morning Brew. Hopefully, I'll see you then. This might be the last Sunday service, by the way. It might be rebranding next week, so watch out for that. I'll tell you more later. But until next time, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.